Hello and welcome to the big picture. After much expectations over the resumption of the Foreign Secretary level talks between India and Pakistan, scheduled for next week, the talks have been called off. India called off the talks this evening after the Pakistan High Commissioner to India met one of the Kashmiri separatists for consultations. This step of the Indian government coming as it does after much celebrations about the presence of Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif at the swearing-in ceremony of the new government in May comes as a dampener. The cancellation of the talks, according to India, was because of what it saw as interference of the Pakistan government in the internal affairs of India. What does this mean to the India-Pakistan peace process? Will it mean going back to square one? What will this also mean to the Pakistan Prime Minister, who was seen and heard laying much store by these talks for him domestically? We will discuss all this today with Atul Aneja, Associate Editor, Defence and Strategic Affairs, The Hindu, Veena Sikri, former Ambassador, Ashok Behuria, Senior Fellow, Institute of Defence Studies and Analysis, and on the phone line from Islamabad is Imtiaz, Senior Journalist and Political Analyst. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Gul, I would like to come to you first. India is seeing these attempts, or rather the meeting of the Pakistan High Commissioner with some of the separatists as interference in the domestic affairs of India. Why was this necessary for the Pakistan High Commissioner to have these meetings?
I wonder whether such meetings are something rare. I think I understand in the past there have been very sustained contact between the Kashmiri leaders as well as the Pakistani High Commission. So I don't think it was something unusual that warranted a knee-jerk reaction from the Indian government.
Okay. Veena Sikri, you think this was a knee-jerk reaction?
No, I think it has been absolutely the correct decision. And let me explain this. I think that Prime Minister Modi, by inviting SAARC leaders to his inauguration, as you said, had shown his serious interest and commitment to improving relations with neighbors. And his subsequent visits to Bhutan and Nepal have shown that he's more than willing to walk the extra mile in earning the trust and respect and friendship of our neighbors. But all this comes with certain red lines, primarily concerning India's security interests. And I think that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was very well aware of these red lines. When he came to India for the inauguration, for the swearing-in, he did not meet the Hurriyat at that time. Right. And I think that was clearly, he was aware of it, that this is a red line.
You think it was told to him in so many words that, you know, we won't appreciate you meeting any of these leaders?
Well, you know, sometimes you don't say it directly, sometimes you convey a message indirectly, but the important point is that there is a second factor to this. And the second factor, I think, is that the situation in Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Imtiaz Gul is saying, oh, this has happened before, but it doesn't mean if something has happened before, you don't review the situation and you don't take a new view of what is happening in Jammu and Kashmir. And I think today, the relevance of the Hurriyat leaders in Jammu and Kashmir has sharply fallen. Everybody there says, well, they can only cause strikes. So why should we have somebody who's only causing strikes? And then the Pakistan High Commissioner and other leaders, by meeting them, are only lifting them to a level which they don't have within the society of Jammu and Kashmir. So I think all things put together, you know, that I think it must have been an important decision of the government of India under Prime Minister Modi that there's no purpose served by the Pakistan dignitaries, including the High Commissioner here, meeting the Hurriyat leaders. And this was conveyed to Pakistan. As you know, the Foreign Secretary spoke to the High Commissioner of Pakistan very clearly that this will have an adverse impact. So I think that that Nawaz Sharif deciding to go ahead with allowing his High Commissioner to meet was something that they knew they were crossing a red line. And Prime Minister Modi is in keeping with the decision.
Let me get Gul back on this. Imtiaz Gul, you know, wasn't it provocative? You know, what you heard, what Veena Sikri said. There were, you know, the Foreign Secretary had spoken to the India-Pakistan High Commissioner that this will not be appreciated. Still going ahead with it. Was it not a provocative action?
Well, as I said, this has not happened. It's not something that has not happened before. Even General Pervez Musharraf had been holding meetings with the Hurriyat people in New Delhi when he visited India, New Delhi, I think in 2005. Pakistani High Commission quotes even other Indian politicians, leaders, artists, there have been very formal contact. So if India wants to now, the Indian government basically wants to treat it as a provocation, then I think there's something wrong, I would say, with the way things are looked at. Because let's be very clear about it, very candid, that Kashmir remains an issue. I mean, if you call it meddling in the Indian affairs, internal affairs, that means that you would stick to your position of Kashmir being an integral part, whereas this is an issue that still has to be decided even according to the UN resolutions. So if it's not integral, if it's integral part of India, then why would India agree to discuss Kashmir with Pakistan at all? So there is a dichotomy of attitudes, and overnight I don't think Pakistan can be expected to sever ties or just to dismiss the Hurriyat leaders as non-entities, because it's the same Hurriyat leaders whom basically the General Pervez Musharraf had also described as future leaders, with the hope that somehow all these people can take the Kashmir issue forward. And India at that time had no reservation or no objection to General Musharraf stating that in New Delhi itself.
Okay. Mr. Gul, I am told that you want to leave quickly. I just have one or two more questions after that you can leave. Mr. Gul, how is this going to affect the Pakistan Prime Minister himself domestically? Because he is facing all kinds of problems at home, and now this coming. Couldn't he have at least avoided this at this point of time? Is it not going to affect him more than it would affect India?
Well, I would say that such actions or reactions by the Indian government would only add to the troubles of a Prime Minister who is already facing a number of issues. So this doesn't really help the cause of a Prime Minister who has been outreaching to India, who has been very keen on expanding relationship with India. Of course, there is a particular context to that. There is the military establishment and the unease between Nawaz Sharif and the military establishment. And when a country like India does the same to the Prime Minister, that basically weakens the civilian Prime Minister. It takes away the little space that civilian Prime Minister has available for his interaction with other countries. So I don't think it augurs well for the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Neither does it for the Indo-Pakistan relationship.
Okay, so would you see this as the entire process going back to square one after so much of, there was so much of bonhomie and celebrations when your Prime Minister came to India for the swearing-in ceremony of the new government, and now you think that all this has just, evaporated?
Well, let's hope not. Let's hope that it doesn't evaporate. Let's hope that this one incident doesn't take us back to square one. This will be very, very unfortunate, because there is still a very large constituency for good relations with India, with Afghanistan. So whenever such things happen, they basically restrict or shrink the space on this constituency for advocating good relations with India and Afghanistan, and for that matter, all other countries with whom Pakistan's relationship is not smooth. So I would say that somehow it would be better if both leaders in both countries can act like mature politicians and not react like college students or university students react to certain situations. That's why this relationship is not going anywhere, and the latest step by the Indian government, I think, it may not take us back to square one, but it has certainly taken us 2 steps back.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, Imtiaz Gul. Ashok?
Allow me to be a little cynical and academic here.
Yes.
If you look at the way the situation is turning out, I would differ with Mr. Gul. I think Nawaz Sharif had already started raising the temperature on Kashmir before Basit invited the separatist leaders. Because I would say that it has rather strengthened his case in Pakistan, because he's already under pressure at the domestic level because of those rallies and all.
Whose case?
The march. Like Nawaz Sharif's case. Like,
how would you say it's strengthened?
Even if the talks are not going to proceed, we didn't give up on Kashmir. So that will show him in good stead, rather, I would say. But coming back to his preliminary agenda that I would like to strengthen relationship with India, I don't think it will caught much eyes with the people in Pakistan at the moment when they are so focused on in domestic issues. So in that sense, and add to it, even if the talks were to go ahead, suppose Basit would have paid respect to the sentiments of the Foreign Office here and wouldn't have invited these leaders to the embassy, to the High Commission, what would have happened? Our Foreign Secretary would have gone, they would have come out with some ritual statements, but no significant progress would have been made. Why I am saying this? The Pakistan,
at least it would have opened the doors which had been closed for quite some time now.
I understand that. There would have been a minor movement here and there. But we understand that the military establishment in Pakistan is not open to the idea of mending fences with India at the moment. If that would have been the case, you wouldn't have witnessed a spike in ceasefire line violations.
Ashok, are you trying to say that this has happened despite Nawaz Sharif's good intentions?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I would say
he has had no control over either the skirmishes which we are witnessing in the borders, or this step taken by the Pakistan High Commissioner.
I will tell you. I will take you back to May and June 2013, when Nawaz Sharif came to power. During that time also, you would have witnessed an upscale in violation across LOC. And now also, during last 11 days, you have 14 violations.
Right.
So that
last
shows
3 months there have been more than
the
30.
spoilers are at work. And I think the happiest today in Pakistan would be the spoilers. They didn't want this Nawaz Sharif's initiative to succeed, and they have been very happy that it didn't succeed.
I'll come to you, Veena, Sikri. Let me go to Atul. Atul, I mean, if I take forward what Ashok Behuria says, so if the spoilers in Pakistan have been at this job for the last several weeks, in fact, after the new government has come to power here, hasn't the Indian government played into the hands of those spoilers in Pakistan by calling off the talks now?
No, I don't think so. The problem is that this relationship is such a complex relationship. There are various constituencies within Pakistan which have varying stands, the political civilian establishment, but the really core power base is the military and the ISI. And unless we start addressing those constituencies within Pakistan, I don't see structurally we are in a position to change, to bring about any kind of a concrete progress. So this is the objective reality at this time. Well, I think it's a good beginning if we can start the Foreign Secretary level talks. But unlike what Imtiaz Gul said, the provocation this time has not come from the Indian side, but from the Pakistani side, because they were fully aware of our sensitivities on this issue. And as Veena Sikri had earlier mentioned, that Nawaz Sharif, when he came, he did not meet the Hurriyat leaders. So, it is a kind of a argument which keeps coming when the Pakistanis say that you understand our internal compulsions, that the Prime Minister is helpless, etc. But somewhere there has to be a common denominator, a minimalist kind of a action which has to come from Pakistan, and this could have been easily won, avoiding meeting Hurriyat leaders. One is not asking for anything more, Atul, and then expanding, on Foreign Secretary level talks, which would have gone ahead.
Atul, my question is this: all that you, Ashok Behuria, Veena Sikri, all have said that there are other constituencies in Pakistan which have to be taken care of before we can move ahead. Then where was the need for India and Pakistan to agree to for a Foreign Secretary level talks at this stage at all? Do you think that itself was not a correct move?
You have to initiate somewhere. No, I think it was a correct move, but you got to be realistic. To expect that this move would yield very big results, I think the objective situation is not that it would yield, but it would be a confidence building measure. It will might start a process, and we must explore whatever little hope there is in that. Otherwise, the other option is not to have a dialogue, and I think that's not a good thing. So you start on soft issues, try building confidence, and simultaneously, through back channel or otherwise, start engaging the big fish in Pakistan, because otherwise this will again stall. It has happened in the past, it will happen again, because unless we make the structural adjustments on the other side and have the militaries engaged, or at least military from the Pakistani side and our civilian establishment, you know, it will again hit a roadblock. So the first thing is start with foreign secretary level talks, but simultaneously the back channel has to move at a very rapid pace, so that this initiative, which would start at the overt level, is not stymied by vested interests, especially in Pakistan. There are interests in India as well, but I think they are more dominant in Pakistan.
Okay, Atul, one more
complex process has to start.
Okay, Veena, Sikri.
Yeah.
The question is, now we have to address what Imtiaz Gul said. So why are you making such a big deal of the separatists meeting the Pakistan High Commissioner? General Musharraf was in India. He met the separatists. There was no problem at that time by the Indian government. Why are you taking so much? Why are you taking, why are you having a problem now?
Well, I think two reasons here. First of all, I think that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has miscalculated. He has misunderstood Prime Minister Modi's gesture of friendship, and Prime Minister Modi's accepting to restart the Foreign Secretary level talks was a gesture of friendship, that yes, Prime Minister Nawaz has come here, let us do this gesture and start and see where we go just by starting the talks process. But the red lines were always there. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif thought that, he would try and cross the red line, and thinking that Prime Minister Modi will be too embarrassed to call off the talks so soon after he's taking over as PM. But I think Nawaz Sharif has fallen between two stools, and Prime Minister Modi, keeping in mind his own domestic constituency, what he said during the elections, and the red lines he's drawn, how can he show just...
So these are red lines drawn by the present government. What the past government has done is not their responsibility.
No, the point is that the red lines drawn today are based on experience with what has happened in the past. You have to learn from that experience. Just saying that General Musharraf met the Hurriyat and during Prime Minister Atul Bihari Vajpayee's time the meetings were allowed doesn't mean that that's a permanent policy for all time.
One second. Okay. Atul, how would you look at this? The Imtiaz Gul's argument that... Yes.
Interesting, Girish. You know, when Musharraf spoke to the Hurriyat, there was a certain process which was already on, in the sense that cross-border terrorism was an issue which was raised by the Pakistanis, and Musharraf delivered on it. The atmospherics were different. Whatever was happening with mutual understanding of the two countries. There was no unilateral step at that time which was taken. So, you know, there's a different context to what happened during Musharraf's time. Whereas in the present case, there is no structure of a dialogue. There is no mutual understanding that the Pakistanis should meet with the Hurriyat. So that is where it comes to. We have to first structure a dialogue and mutually agree on red lines, and then move forward on this track. But I don't think the parallel that Musharraf made is exactly correct and applicable to the current situation.
Okay.
Different contextual positions.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Quickly.
Because also the point is that Prime Minister Modi is looking at the situation in Jammu and Kashmir, and he's been there already twice. He's visited the state twice, and he wants to improve the situation on the ground. He doesn't want a constant strife over there. The academia are upset with the strike. The business community won't invest there because of the law and order situation. So obviously, from the point of view of the situation on the ground, if the Hurriyat does not have any longer that kind of influence, and all analysts are agreed on this, then why should we give them so much badhawa?
Ashok,
let me just take you back to my argument, earlier argument.
No,
if you look at Pakistan,
also, so in such a situation, where was the need for these talks to be held at all?
No, I think there was already they had agreed to a date. So they had to move forward.
Atul talks about creating structures. That structures were not created.
I'll come to that argument. Yeah. But let me first acquaint you with the internal political dynamics in Pakistan today.
Right.
When Nawaz Sharif came here and went back without meeting the Kashmiri leaders.
Right.
If you look at the vernacular media in Pakistan, in all of them, they said that this guy has destroyed the Kashmiri cause.
Okay.
And we must remember that here is a person who had started the Solidarity Day in Pakistan. Nawaz Sharif had started the Kashmir Day. And not only that, he also takes pride in the fact that he has a Kashmiri origin. So he started bouncing back, because there was also this Imran Khan's rally, Awami Tehreek's rally. So he was also cornered. So he wanted to also show himself as somebody who can also stand up to Indian stand on Kashmir at the moment. So I think the internal political dynamics was working in such a way that he would not have been able to say no to this kind of a meeting. I would say that there was an inevitability about it. Had he done that, he would have risked losing his position internally in Pakistan. So I'm not being apologetic about his behavior. I'm just trying to explain it.
Right.
Coming back to Mr. Aneja's argument that we should be doing something to bring about a structural change within Pakistan, I think we are waiting for something miraculous to happen.
No,
we do not have that leverage.
Structural change. What he meant was that we have to deal with all the structures in Pakistan.
No. So
before entering into this kind of a dialogue process, is it possible?
Unless the army comes to power in Pakistan, there is no way we can get to know what army is going to think.
Is there any way in which the Indian government can have back channel diplomacy with the army and the ISI before entering into this kind of a dialogue process at all?
We in IDSA have advocated military to military diplomacy, things like that with other countries in the neighborhood. But with Pakistan, there is a red line again. Can we subject our army to that kind of a military to military diplomacy?
But it's the Pakistan army which says no. Yeah, they say no. It's not we are in favor. Yeah. It's fine.
So in that sense, back channel has always been with the civilian leadership,
right,
not with the military.
Right.
And the relationship between the military of Pakistan and the civilian government in Pakistan is always strained. So we also cannot move beyond a point. You can, Nawaz Sharif can come here and say that, we have to take the trade thing forward, we have to grant MFN status to India. But, when it comes to actually doing things on the ground, they always backtrack. From MFN, they have invented a new, different term. They are not ready to give us MFN status. That shows the strength of the spoiler within Pakistan. And they do not want this relationship to go forward. Having said that, I agree with Mr. Aneja's statement that, there should have been, the talks should have gone on, the Pakistani High Commissioner should have been a little more circumspect, maybe Nawaz Sharif would have been a little more circumspect, but we have to also keep in mind the Nawaz Sharif's internal political situation in Pakistan.
Atul, what is the impact this will have on India, on the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's agenda of improving relations with the neighbors, especially Pakistan? How will all this play out in the coming weeks and months? And also, we should remember that next month in September, both the Indian Prime Minister and the Pakistan Prime Minister will be there in the United Nations. Do you think anything can be retrieved there?
I think, that's an opportunity which will arise at that time. But I think India has to move on two tracks. Not all SAARC countries are on the same plane. I think it's important, and it's happened in the past. I remember the time when Indra Kumar Gujral was the foreign minister before he became prime minister, that we started trilateral cooperation within the SAARC framework. So we need to move ahead with the other members of the SAARC with the same momentum as we started when Modi's inaugural took place. So engage Bangladesh, engage Maldives, Sri Lanka, all these countries, Afghanistan. And while you keep open the possibility of engaging Pakistan in dialogue, but you don't stall the entire SAARC process because of one country. Move ahead, move on trade, move on the economic side, and whatever other ways of cooperation you can have, and let that have a demonstrable effect on Pakistan as well. But I think there's also another problem. What Ashok was saying about with Pakistan, I don't think we have enough leverages to influence their power centers.
Right.
And in that sense, bilateralism has its own limitations.
Okay.
And I don't see how we can address the various constitutions.
Okay.
We've also seen internationalism has failed. So we have to strike a very creative approach of how do we get to impact on their power center. And I think there should be new ideas which should be coming up. Maybe if there's a regional approach in the making. One country which I see which has tremendous influence on Pakistan, it's all weather friend China. I think we should explore a dialogue with China and Pakistan.
Okay,
it's still far away. But I think when you have your strategic dialogue with China, Afghanistan and Pakistan should come very prominently.
Okay, Veena, Sikri, very quickly. You think that what has happened today can lead to more kind of skirmishes on the border between India and Pakistan? Do you think that, this is a time when maybe both countries need to sit back and look at the whole process and, think coolly instead of indulging in, saber rattling?
I think that the Pakistan government would not have expected this.
Yes.
Completely unexpected that Prime Minister Modi will call off the talks because, this is a new Prime Ministership. And I think Prime Minister Modi, having taken this correct decision, he has shown to the government of Pakistan that he means serious business. He is prepared to extend the hand of friendship, but in return, respect for the red lines must be there. And Nawaz Sharif, in trying to balance relationship with India and his relationship with the army, has achieved neither. Because I don't think his relation with the army is going to improve, but certainly I think the army would take pause in continuing their practice of shelling across the border and intercepting BSF convoys and so on, because they would know that Prime Minister Modi is very serious about retaliating in case the red lines are crossed.
Okay, Ashok, very quickly, last words. You think that India should look at what is happening in Pakistan more closely and try to help Nawaz Sharif to get out of the situation in which you were early saying that he's still under the control of the army and the ISI, and which is not playing ball with him.
We need to understand Pakistan better, and I don't think we need to strengthen Nawaz Sharif's position in Pakistan. We have to safeguard our national interest. So in that sense, if the talks are being called off, so be it. But we have to find a way of getting back to talk, getting back to dialogue. Maybe Prime Minister is meeting, maybe he will meet Nawaz Sharif in New York, and maybe a new beginning will be made.
Okay, I think on that positive note we need to end, but it's a rather unfortunate day today that the two countries which were heading towards some kind of a peace process are now back to square one virtually. We will hope that as my panelists feel that next one maybe we will be able to recover some lost ground. Thanks to all my guests, Veena, Sikri, Ashok, Behuria, Atul, Aneja and Imtiaz who had joined us earlier from Islamabad. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on Big Picture same time tomorrow.